Robes08 when he sees a new Oda Erica video.
I don't like the look of it.
People watching a curly fragrance video after watching the Robes08 video.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
And this is Robes08 bumping into the other big YouTubers at Milan in 2025.
Why would I apologize? I didn't do anything. You only apologize if you've done something wrong, pal.
Hello folks and welcome back to the show. So today I'm going to do a reaction to a video that caused a little bit of a stir in our fragrance community last week. Very interesting video by Mark Robes08. Before I do that, please don't forget that my recommended UK-based fragrance sampling site is Fragrance Samples UK, where my code Mr. Smelly 10 gets you 10% off across their site a stunning array of design and niche fragrances. My recommended USA-based fragrance sampling site is the Fragrance Decant Boutique. That's decantboutique.com, and that code Mr. Smelly 10 also works there across a huge range of amazing fragrances. So last week there was a video from Mark Robes08. I've linked it down there, and his video is talking about the fact that many bigger fragrance YouTube channels get sent bottles of fragrance free, and therefore it kind of taints their opinion about those fragrances a bit. I mean, breaking news alongside the news that bears defecate in the woods, and it appears the Pope may be Catholic. Yes, we've all kind of known that for a long time, and we've had a few videos. This one's caused a bit of a stir. Some people very much praising him for making the video, and maybe a few other people who have a counterposed point of view. Let's talk about the video. I'm going to keep this pretty brief because I've seen the video itself is like 35 minutes and some of the reaction live streams and stuff for 2 hours and stuff, and that's fine. But you know, let's do a little more succinct appreciation of the pros and cons of the Robes08 video. So Mark Robes08 channel, it's been going I think since 2008, hence the name. I will link it down there. I've got to just talk about him first. I would recommend people, if you're interested in fragrances and good, honest reviews with integrity and with a lot of knowledge of fragrances, I think it's a channel well worth subscribing to. He has a really good nose for fragrances as far as I can tell, and the way that he talks about the fragrances suggests he really is picking out notes on his own, not just reading them from Fragrantica, and he'll tell you about the perfumers, and he does a lot of individual fragrance reviews. I noticed one the week or so, or a few weeks ago, about Bogart Pour Homme from the House of Bogart 2004 release, an individual fragrance review about 15 minutes long, and inevitably that kind of content doesn't get that many views. But I have to say, if you're looking to find out about a fragrance with some really good in-depth analysis, his videos are excellent. He knew a lot about the perfumer. He was talking about Maurice Roussel's use of lavender and stuff. So he really does fragrance reviews, if you like proper appreciation of fragrances from someone who really is sharing his passion and will be completely objective about them. He does fragrance reviews kind of in the right way. His presentation is really good. The video quality is great. Nice background and all that kind of stuff. The sound's all good. And he does talk in a very articulate and very knowledgeable way. So well worth subscribing to him. And I guess the problem for him and his channel is that he's been doing this since 2008. Maybe at one time he might have been the biggest fragrance reviewer on YouTube, but there was so much less competition then. And the community, as he was talking about nostalgically, was a little bit more authentic back then. You had a smaller number of people. They were mostly buying the fragrances themselves, mostly not getting paid for their videos, mostly had day jobs, and they really were just sharing their passion for the fragrances, which made the reviews or fragrance videos very authentic, very truthful. That really can only be a good thing. As we all know, things have evolved since then. People have got bigger and bigger. Jeremy Fragrance came along, and all kinds of other channels have grown and grown, surpassed Robes08, who has about 51,000 subscribers now, and we have many channels well over 100,000, 200,000, etc., who came along much later. So channels like Robes08 don't grow as fast as the channels that just give you loads of top 10 videos. People like Gent Sense, with all respect to him, you know, almost every day there's a new top 10 video, and it's a very similar format for people like Curly Fragrance, Curly Sense, etc. And these people, of course, then are professionalizing their channel. It becomes their job. They get sent a lot of stuff free, and naturally, if they want to keep working with these brands, then they're going to need to be careful that they can't be too negative about stuff they're getting sent. Otherwise, they won't get sent any more stuff. Many of them have discount codes. And this is where our good friend Robes08 has his objection to what's going on. So let's talk about that a little bit. So he's talking in the video, I'll summarise it as quickly as I can. In the old days, Fragcomm was more authentic, e.g. he discovered, he says, Healy Month fragrance, or Creme de Menthe by Healy, and there was a bit of hype from him about it, but that was his own genuine discovery. He either bought a sample, I guess he bought the fragrance and liked it, and that kind of got people interested in the brands, and it was kind of an organic, natural hype that developed, or an interest around that brand. And whereas now you've got big brands like maybe Parfums de Marly, and the particular one he draws attention to in this video is Micallef, who it seems perhaps send a lot of free bottles to the bigger fragrance influencer YouTube channels as part of their strategy for publicising their fragrance. Now, we all know that goes on. He's then saying that brands like Max Aroma, which is a seller of fragrances, sells many different brands, is like the head honcho, passing it on down to the dealers who give us all the drug of the fragrance review, peddling this stuff. I think that's a bit harsh. We've all known for a long time that a lot of people who make fragrance videos are no longer maybe even describing themselves as reviewers. They accept that they are fragrance influencers. I think Cubano describes himself as a entertainer, and they acknowledge openly that they work with brands. And you would be really rather naive and blind not to notice that these people have been sent stuff free, and therefore there is an element of them being maybe inclined not to talk too negatively about fragrances too often. He then goes on so he talks about, he calls the fragrance videos, including TikTok ones and Instagram kind of things, that counts to infomercials or commercials, and he mentions, the interesting thing, he does get a little bit personal. He mentions quite a few specific other YouTube reviewers or YouTube channels. Oda Erica, he mentions reviewed or talked about this new Micallef release, Desire Toxic, or whatever it's called, Intense, I can't remember, and she was saying, there's been a lot of excitement about this fragrance. He's like, well, who's excited? I didn't notice it. Yeah, he maybe has a point there. I don't notice that there was massive excitement amongst the world at large, or even the fragrance community, about this fragrance. It was only that there was a smattering of videos about the fragrance when the brand sent it to people free, as they've got every right to do. My brand, Norton & Wilson, has sent things to people free, and we didn't do it really out of the goodness of our hearts. We were hoping that they might talk about it. We never put any pressure on them to say it was good, bad, or indifferent, but we believed in the product, and we hope that it might give us a few sales if we send a free bottle to YouTubers and they talk about it. And that's all that Micallef are doing, but some people object to this. By the way, our fragrance Gravitas Prom in the UK, still available for only £70 posted. Last few days of that offer, don't miss out. And we have the amazing 5th release with snazzy new packaging, name covered up. It's secret, but I'll tell you soon, coming out this early winter 2024. Okay. So he has a jab at Oda Erica, somebody who emerged in around about 2022. Cubano, big channel, been going a long time. He kind of, says that Cubano is fully embracing being a fake influencer. That's a little bit below the belt there. And kind of says some personal things about the way he dresses, he wears chains and has a kind of street style. So, he gets quite personal. He singles out individual reviewers. I've done videos about this kind of thing before. I've said people do get stuff sent free. He says take what they say with a pinch of salt. But I've tended not to attack individuals. Robes08 crosses that line here. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments down below. He then turns his guns to Curly Fragrance, the big Dutch reviewer, I think now residing in Dubai, who really emphasised the fact that the fragrance was strong. It's beast, really beast mode. You can smell it everywhere. And she gave it kind of an 8 or 9 out of 10, I think. And she said you would get a lot of V word. Actually, I noticed on the clip, you're going to get a lot of woman's V word from this fragrance. It's a bit crass, isn't it? Real men, real style. He kind of includes in people he's not too impressed in the way they go about promoting things. So he's really taking hits at a lot of bigger channels, and they're all, all these channels kind of have one thing in common. They are all bigger and more successful in their numbers of views than his own channel. So you've got to bear that in mind when people do these critique videos and attack others. It's usually looking upwards in terms of numbers and views. I'm just putting that out there. So it could look a little bit like sour grapes. What do you think about that? He moves on to Redolescence, a contemporary who was around in the earlier days of the community, and again says he's not the worst, but again he hits out at his blue contact lenses, which, what's that got to do with anything? Says he's got worse since he was wearing his blue contact lenses, a bit harsh there, and he shows clips from TLTG as well, and gives kind of a little bit of a patronising appraisal of this guy's channel, and with TLTG, I noticed he actually did say that he worked with Micallef before. So the point I'd like to make is a lot of these YouTube influencers aren't actually doing anything that disingenuous. They make no secret of the fact that they have been sent the fragrances free, and some of them even do talk about collaborating with, or my friends at this brand, they sent it for me for free, I'm working with them. A lot of the times they will have the paid promotion tag on the thing. So they're not committing some kind of grand larceny here. They're not committing a gigantic deception. It's fairly open that they are indeed getting a lot of stuff sent free. They may indeed have a code where you get 10% off and maybe they get a small percentage of any money that is spent on that fragrance. And therefore it is in the open. I don't see a massive problem. Robes08, to criticise him then, he's talking about people's beads that they're wearing on their hand or their hats. He told someone off about tucking their hat in, the blue contacts, the chains, a bit personal about people there, and I don't think that's a great thing to do. However, I do respect him as a reviewer. And so my point overall is, number one, I really respect Mark Robes08. I think that you should go and subscribe to his channel. I think he has a lot of integrity, certainly as a YouTube reviewer. I don't know about him or his personal life, but in terms of his YouTube reviews or videos being what they appear to be and being pretty much unbiased, he will say something's average and mediocre, and he does have great in-depth knowledge, and he doesn't just throw out list after list of top 10. Hats off to him for that. Well worth watching, very articulate, very knowledgeable. As far as his attack or criticism of the other bigger channels, there's room for everybody. There are lots of small channels where the person doesn't do it for money, has a day job, is really passionate. Maybe they like vintage fragrances, maybe they like really obscure fragrances and maybe they're a bit of a niche snob. And those kind of videos are never really going to pick up and take off and become a huge video channel that gets millions of subscribers or views. And then you have at the other end, you have people with huge numbers of followers, 200,000 plus, they're getting 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 views on a video, and they're doing it for money and they get sent stuff free. And it's not really a secret that they're doing that. So if you don't like them, you don't have to watch them. It doesn't spoil the rest of the smaller channels. There's probably still more small channels with integrity and the authenticity, which he laments seems to have passed, than there ever were 10 or 15 years ago. There are still great channels like his own, like Scentland, Chris from Scentland, like AC Smells Good. A lot of people like Ramsey Fragrance knows his stuff really well. You could go on. Those channels are still there, and the bigger ones aren't really doing any of us any harm. I doubt the bigger channels in these videos are particularly upset about what he said. They're like, yeah, well, we know that we're influencers, and you know that too. And I doubt any of the bigger channels would do a response to it. My channel, I guess, falls somewhere in between. I do have some link-ups and collaborations, as I've talked about my fragrance sampling site. I have my own brand that I'm very proud of. I don't get sent a lot of stuff free. And so that's not part of my business model. You don't see a lot of links to sort of get this fragrance with 10% off. I'm not averse to doing it, but it's not really part of my business model. So I fall somewhere in between. And in terms of views, I'm not terribly successful either, which I could say the same about Robes08. But I do really respect him. And, he has every capability of being just as good and having just as big a channel as these guys if he'd caved in and gone down the route they have. So you have to give him props for that. But maybe some of the things he said were a little bit unnecessary, I think. What do you think about that? Comment down in the video comments down below, and if you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe. Remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project, and although life may stink, at least we can always smell good. Check out Norton and Wilson, linked in the description of this video. Bye-bye.